Did you think the Japanese internment was a good thing? Because that was a real assimilation. Japanese internment is a classic example of assimilating Asian Americans.
No, it's not. It's a classic example of internment. I mean, they intern people.
It's also embracing the diversity that we inherently have and accepting that and being okay with that and celebrating that.
That's very idealistic, I think, but I think we should acknowledge the fact that diversity, quote unquote, is not a factor that is our strength. It's not a factor that historically or even in the current strengthens societies. People don't come together, form societies, form families, form communities because they have nothing in common. They come together and do those things because they have something in common, right?
You talk about race in such black and white terms. The way you talk about it is it's either with America, whatever your definition of America, or not. You're talking in very black and white terms, and that's actually the problem in discussing race, because we're Asian Americans, we're neither black, we're neither white. When you're having a race discussion, you can't be talking about in such like lines. Yeah. Everything is in the gray.
The more in common that a society has with one another, the more likely they are to work together and build things in society and not constantly be fighting each other and at odds with each other.
Did you think the Japanese internment was a good thing? Because that was a real assimilation situation. You know what I mean?
No, I
Do you recognize
don't.
that the term assimilation has negative history and facts associated with that word? So we do have to be careful in how we choose, because assimilation for people of color have not been good to us historically. That's factual. So let me ask you.
We're discussing the model minority myth and the fact that
Japanese internment is a classic example of assimilating Asian Americans.
No, it's not. It's a classic example of internment. I mean, they intern people. All these attacks that you're seeing the videos of in San Francisco, New York City, newsflash, they're not being prosecuted as hate crimes. So the more correct way to look at it is what is the primary perpetrator of violence against Asians overall, right? Because if we talk about these videos, we have to count them in the statistics, and we're not doing that. And when we do that, we find, well, I'll tell you this, the plurality top perpetrator of violence against Asians, number one, is not happening in rural America, and number two, is not being done by white people.
So is it black people that are doing it? Like, is it the black and brown people that are doing it?
No, that's exactly
just inherently violent. Like,
just say it.
I didn't say that. All I said
beat around it. Just say it.
And if it's not white people or Asian people, who is it?
All I said, I didn't say anything about inherently violent. All I said is that if it's
now you did.
If it's
no one accused you of that, and now you did.
If it's a white,
so like your bias is slipping out there.
It's clear you want to say it. You should just say it.
Can anyone let me talk here?
When it comes to Asian hate, the perpetrator is not a white supremacist in New York.
Correct. That's all I'm saying.
So that's the
all
problem.
That I'm saying.
Like, we don't want to blame one race for violence when that's actually not true.
Is it white people? Is it white people?
It is white people.
Are these attacks happening
It is white people. I literally looked up statistics.
You do not have to be white to perpetuate white supremacy. No one's saying it's not hard to govern a heterogeneous society, but it is possible to do a lot better than the way that we're fucking doing it right now. It's like we've banked on this myth of white adjacency more than this model minority myth of like, instead of aligning ourselves with the black community who've been fighting for racial justice and liberation, right, and acknowledging our own privilege and putting our bodies on the line to fight for these movements, instead we banked on white adjacency, and here we are still being pushed.
First of all, what exactly is white adjacency? Is it working hard, having families?
I don't
understand what the issue is. But then number two, wait, let me finish my point. I think it is gaslighting when, again, the majority of violent attacks against Asians are not being perpetrated by white people to blame white supremacy.
White supremacy as a construct is this idea, like that the norm of American is whiteness.
Yes.
That whiteness is the default.
Standard.
That whiteness is the standard that we all ought to aspire to, and we deviate from that.
It's not just talking about KKK.
Yeah.
It's not talking about lynchings. It's about a mentality.
Here's a radical idea. Okay, you guys ready?
No, I'm not.
So there's a lot of violence happening. A lot of it's against Asian people. A lot of it is happening in cities. Crazy idea, I know. Then maybe it's not a good idea to let criminals out of jail. Maybe it's not a good idea to defund the police, neuter the police ability to have any degree of law and order in our streets. And maybe you wouldn't have so much violence happening against so many different types of vulnerable people. I mean, this is just the truth of the situation. You know, the real core of the problem is that there is lawlessness and mass violence and mass crime happening in cities. I think that the Stop Asian Hate movement comes from woke left-wing social movement to kind of make it into this argument of like minorities being persecuted, when I don't think that's the core of the problem. I think the core of the problem is like, it's just dangerous in our city. Thank you very much for watching that epic clip, and it was absolutely epic, wasn't it? Well,
now you have a job to do. Okay, if you did enjoy it and you want to support, be sure to leave a like, be sure to subscribe to this channel, and be sure to subscribe to our main channel. Yeah, we have a main channel where we do these full live streams and regular videos, lots of different content. The main channel is just called Vince Dow. That's kind of intuitive, right? This is Vince Dow Clips. So go subscribe to Vince Dow. The link to both should be on the screen and in the description or whatever. It's all over the place, okay? So go and subscribe to Vince Dow and subscribe to this channel. If you don't, let me just say Joe Brandon's going to be very happy. Okay, that's what I'll say. So go do it. God bless. Peace.